Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Currin. I'm the founder of Convene Communities, and today I have with me Charles Swearingen. And Charles, how you doing today?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Okay, Charles is going to be one of the community leaders for Convene First Responders, and today we're going to be demoing how to write a scenario on Convene, the Convene Training App. But before we kick that off, I want to ask Charles just to give us a little bit of information and tell us about himself and some of the things that he has going on.
Hey, okay, yeah, hey everybody. Again, Charlie Swearingen. I own Education Specialists. Also am a professional educator with one of the bigger air medical service companies. Um, so the one thing I'm really glad to be a part of with this gives us an opportunity in a non-threatening environment to be able to present scenarios and go through it and just, the more that we do this, this is a type of derived experience. That's actually one of the titles of my podcast is derived experience, where I bring out a case. I give you different situations and the way that things change and see what you're going to do to those changes. And that's a great thing that Matt has created here, is that ability to put out a scenario with multiple updates, multiple questions during those updates, and what are we going to do if sugar starts going to the other stuff. So, that's the beauty behind this, and that kind of is what I've always been driven by. Is I started in this business in 2005, got my feet wet per se with Katrina, learned how to really triage people there, worked with a fantastic group at Level 1 Hospital there in Jackson, Mississippi, and worked really closely with the residents. We learned from them. They, at July 2nd or 3rd, they kind of learned from us. We try to help keep them out of trouble till they got on their feet, and we had to work together because they were usually the ones sending us out to go retrieve a patient. And that culture of education really influenced me into what I like to do now. I have this small business where we have online training, train nurses and paramedics how to earn their flight paramedic and flight certification exams. But we also train PAs and anybody that has to deal with clinical and critical care medicine. And so I love doing that. And so when Matt brought this product on and this feature to his umbrella, then that really excited me. So again, I'm glad to be here, glad to be a part of this, and let's rock and roll.
All right, that sounds good. So we're going to jump straight in, and then we're going to go through the scenario writing portion of the app. And you can see here, I've gone to my dashboard, and I am currently in this add scenario section of the dashboard. So you have multiple tabs in here. I have a couple extra, but I'm going to explain what each of them are as we go through this. And you can see assigned scenarios. So currently right now, I don't have any assigned scenarios. But I'm going to show you here in just a little bit how I can assign one to Charlie and then how it'll show up in his inbox over there in his assigned scenarios. Next thing is available scenarios. So think about the available scenarios. This is a shared learning tool. What does a shared learning tool mean? That means that over time, we're going to build up this humongous library of scenarios. You can go in and you can look at these scenarios, and there's two types of scenarios. There is private scenarios and there's public scenarios. First, public scenarios, that's part of the Convene library. So, for example, if Charlie came and he read a scenario that he likes, he can look at that and he can assign it out to his people. He can assign it out to his group that he's a group leader of. And then also on the public side, it's just as an individual user, I can go into this section and I can do any scenario that I want to as an individual. So it doesn't have to be assigned to me. So that's a beautiful thing about public scenarios. And I hope, my goal obviously as Convene is that the majority of those scenarios that are written in here, because anybody can create a scenario and write a scenario, that the majority of those are written in the public format. However, there's people like Charlie who has a group, and within his group and the training that he does very specific training. So if you're a part of his group and you join his group, then you can see his private scenarios, and he can assign out those scenarios out to his group, but only if you're a part of his group. So those are the only people that will be able to see it. So we've added that in, and part of that might be that what happens in our house stays in our house, for example. And so you may have a scenario that you want to learn from inside your own organization, and you may not want to put it out to the public. You may want to keep that inside and talk about it. So those scenarios can stay within inside of your specific group. We're going to jump back to create scenarios here momentarily because that is the main crux of what we're doing today. We're going to create a scenario. And here we're going to go to review scenarios. So I'm a group leader. I'm the community leader of Convene First Responders as well. And you can see that I have a scenario in here that has already been written. So the scenario that's in here that's already been written, I'm just going to go, and I've already reviewed this. Charlie wrote this one. So I'm just going to scroll down it very slowly here. And you can see that he's written it. It's very in-depth, and then he has lessons learned. So this is what I was talking about here earlier. I can approve this private, or I can or public, or I can approve it in a private format. One other thing that you will see, and I apologize that it's not in here now, as the approver, what I would also be able to do right now is I would be able to pick the category that it will be in, and also I can put tags to it for searchability. That will be in here, believe it or not, tomorrow, but it's not in here today, but I didn't want to hold up doing this video. But you'll see that as we go forward. So please, as you approve and publish your scenarios, make sure you select the category and you publish it. We have that on the test site now. Okay, so now I just published it. Let me return here to the main screen. And what I want to do is, as I return to it, I'm going to show you how it went into the available scenarios. Okay, so I just back out of it, and let me go to available scenarios, and now you see it. There it is. So now it is a scenario. Once you're in Convene Communities, you can come in and check this one out. This will be a great example of how to do scenarios. And then the last one, these are ones that I have actually completed and the ones that I've actually done. Now, completed me because I am a author and I am a publisher and a group leader. I haven't actually taken this scenario here, the one that Charlie just wrote. But it's in my completed file because I wrote it. So when you write the scenario, you're not actually allowed to take it. And then if you publish it, you're not actually allowed to take the scenario. But other than that, everybody else is. Okay. Any questions so far, Charlie? Anything you want to add or questions you got about that so far?
If you were any printer, you'd have to be knocking off with a stick. That sounded great.
That's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So we're going to create a scenario here. Again, this is important. We are trying to create a shared learning culture. Understand that, and what does that mean? The point is, as Charlie talked about when he introduced himself, is that it is so important that we feel that we are able to share our experiences and knowledge without fear of reprisal or retribution. And what does that mean? That means that the way that we learn as humans, the way that we learn as people is through experience. That's the bottom line. The more experience we gather over time, the better we're going to be at making decisions. Unfortunately, if we make a mistake, the likelihood of us going back and making a mistake again a second time is a lot slimmer than if we hadn't made that or been into that situation before. So the idea is that we will share our experiences and knowledge, and in the world that we live in, whether that be as a first responder, a firefighter, you name it, a pilot, a mom, a dad, a young married couple, a soccer player, a volleyball player, whatever that might be, we learn through experience. So how can we put people in experience and allow them to learn from each other, because we all have so much to share. All right, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a scenario. So for this scenario here, I'm going to come down here and I've made a Word document up that has it, and this one's called Burnt Face. So I'm going to copy the scenario here, copy that, and then I'm going to come up here, and each scenario has a title. The key thing about the title is that when we're writing a scenario, we want the title to be descriptive. So if I walk up to Charlie tomorrow and this scenario has been assigned to him, I can say to him, hey man, have you done burnt face? And he should know exactly what I'm talking about. So you want it to be descriptive so there is something that people can latch onto. So one of the things that all scenarios have to do, I all have to have a picture attached to them. So this one's called Burnt Face. So I went and I've downloaded a picture, And I'm just going to title this one. I'm going to call it PPE. And I'm going to call this, give it a description. I'm going to call it a burnt mask. And you'll see this come up later. And again, you saw that when I showed some of the examples that you're able to see the scenarios there, and it is. It's a little bit descriptive. Okay, so the next thing you know, each scenario is made up of different categories. So each scenario is made up of background. So what is the background? The background is the big overarching picture. So what I'm trying to do with the background is I'm trying to set the stage. Okay, I'm trying to set the big picture so you know exactly the scenery that you are in when you're faced with whatever this situation might be. So I'm going to add the background. And when I do that, it's right here. I've already copied it when I did that a second ago, and I'm going to paste it. So now it's in there. So basically, this is a live fire training exercise where they are pulling the different lines out to this this vehicle, and the goal of the situation is that they have to go remove this dummy victim out of the area that's burning. Okay. So I can continue and I can add more pictures to that scenario or that situation. Or what I'm going to show you here is, because we are talking about PPE, I'm going to go and I'm going to just, for the purposes of writing this scenario to show you the different aspects that it can have in there, I'm going to add a video in here on fire PPE. So we're going to put that in there. And then I'm going to add other things in the other areas. But I can add additional pictures for the background. So, if it's a picture of soccer, it might be a picture of the field. If it is a first responder EMT, it might be a picture of a 12 lead. There's no use your creativity. You can add whatever it is that you want in this area. I can come in and I can add a document, and I'll show you how to do that here on just in a different link in a different place. And I can also add a URL. Like I said, I'll add that different. I just want to put the video in now. So what you're going to see is the video appear right here. You see the background. It's very repetitive. So those different aspects that I just showed you that you can add, it's just like that in every one. So once you get it down, it's no different. I think even Charlie will be able to do it. What do you think?
I mean,
Okay, so let me come in here and I'm going to add in the scenario. So what is the scenario? The scenario is where you're taking and you're putting somebody in the situation now. So the background, I gave you the big overarching picture of it, but now I'm putting you in the scenario. So for this example, you're the company officer in charge of this incident. As you arrive on location, what are your incident priorities? So I'm kind of getting them into it, and I'm kind of getting them thinking about, hey, this is what we're going to be thinking about next. Here is the category. So I told you this would be added in. I'm going to put fire here. What you're seeing, like I said, you're not seeing the tags in here yet. So the tags will be in here later. See, the picture of my PPE is now in there, and that's all I'm going to add to this point. All right, so the next part of it is I'll get down. I've got the scenario background. Now the scenario in there, I'm going to start adding questions. So once I come in here, you can see whoever wrote up this scenario, they wrote good questions for us. So I'm going to copy this question. All right, what kind of questions, Charlie, do you think you want to ask? You want to ask yes or no questions, or would you want to ask other type of questions? What are your
the irony there that you just asked me what type of questions to ask, and yes or no, and the answer is no.
Yeah. Yes, you do not want to add yes or no questions, and the reason is you want to get into people's thought processes. I want to know why you think something. If I ask you a yes or no question, or I ask you a multiple choice question, do I really know what your thought process is? Do I know what you're thinking? Absolutely not. I do not know. So the goal is that I, put you in an open-ended environment, and I allow you to answer those questions. Here's the key thing. If I give this scenario out to 20 people, I might get 10 different answers. Does that mean that those answers are wrong? Absolutely not. A lot of times what our answers are going to be and what you're going to see in this, your answers are based off of what your experience is. And have you ever been there, and have you ever done that, or have you not? It doesn't mean that new student who's just out of Charlie's class it's not wrong because he's going by the book. And it doesn't mean the person who's been in that, an advanced paramedic for 20 years is wrong either, because they have the experience. Maybe the right answer is somewhere in the middle, and you learn from each other in that situation. All right, so I added another question, and then coming up here last, I'm going to add this next question. Okay, so you'll see in this next question, and I want to point this out, is that the writer of this scenario put what I call a trigger in it. And what a trigger to me is you notice the fireman retrieving the dummy, victims encounters intense heat. All right, so what does that mean? What now and why? So that's a trigger. Really what we were doing in the earlier answers is the other questions, we were talking about how we were going to attack this situation. Now the situation just changed on you. So if you're a first responder, or if you're an EMT or paramedic, maybe that is, the patient's situation going different and tanking or something. So that's an example. I like to teach them and call them a trigger, is what I do. Okay. So now I have 3 questions in here. All right. So we got our background, our scenario, and we have 3 questions. And we're not going to add any more, but we're going to add a lesson learned. Not all scenarios are written based off of an actual event. I like when scenarios are written off an actual event because I think we want to hear people's stories. We want to learn from them. But you can write it off, a training scenario. Charlie can write the scenario based off a learning objective that he's trying to teach in one of his courses. It does not always have to be based off of an actual scenario or actual, event. I think actual events are great, so the more we can put in there, the better. Okay, so I've put that in. Well, I want to add a couple other things here because we're talking about PPE and all of those good things. So what I have done is I've opened up an article here, and I'm going to copy this link, and I'm going to come down to the bottom, and at the bottom here, I'm going to put that link in, and I'm going to put fire PPE. So this might be you want to link an article to it, or you want to link something to it. It might be something that's very related to the scenario that you wrote. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a PDF document here, and this PDF document basically goes into a little bit more information about that situation, if I can find it. Let's see, I think it's this one right here. And I'm going to, no, excuse me, it's up here. And so now I'm going to have that in there. And now that article, you can see Chapter 3, Personal PPE Equipment, Self-Contained Breathing Apparatus. So now I have a document that can help you, assist you in your learning process. And so for Charlie would be, for example, if he has a class and maybe he wants to put more information about his class or put a policy, or procedure, or protocol, whatever that is might be in there. And now you see it. So here it is. This was an actual event that happened. And the author of this scenario wrote what actually happened. So the guy who was attacking the fire actually took some burns to the face. So now he wrote the lessons learned and basically what can we do different so this does not happen again. Now I have supporting information in here. So I have the document and I have the link. So if I want to click on the link, it's going to open right out to our article. If I want to click on the PDF, it's going to open right to the document. All right, next piece is now I'm going to submit this for approval. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to submit it to approval to Cindy, who is writes all the code for this, and I'm going to submit it for publishing. All right. So there's that scenario. Let me come in here and I'm going to show you just the next piece. I'm going to, for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to switch over to Cindy and switch to her. All right, and I'm going to go to scenarios. Okay, now review scenarios, just as I showed you earlier. Here it is. So now Cindy can go in here. She can review what I wrote. And this could be, You know, this could be your training officer. This could be Convene. If you wanted to send it to Convene, it can be whoever it is that you want it to be. And then I can come down to the bottom. Now I have the ability again, what we talked about, I can approve it private or public. I just approved it public. Let me go back to members. Okay, get back here to myself. Switch to me. Go to scenarios. And now the available ones, they're in here, and here it is, and available scenarios. But here's what I want to do. I want to come in here, and just for the purpose of this, I'm going to assign it. And then after I assign it, we're going to go over there to Charles and let him see it. So Charles, you're going to get a fire scenario. Are you a firefighter?
Negative, but let's just do it for educational purposes.
That's right. Did you stay on a Holiday Inn Express last night?
I did actually, yes sir.
Yeah. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to change the presenter, and I'm going to go to Charles. So you should start seeing his screen, and he's going to write us a scenario and show us that he received that in his assignments.
All right, so let's see, take this guy away. All right, so I'm going to go to scenario. Now it's create. Let me back up. So new at this, but it's still pretty user friendly. You get an error. You started with create scenario. That was the wrong one. My dashboard, and I can see that we have scenarios here. So I'm going to click there. Now it pulls up the fire scenario, burnt face on assigned scenarios. There we go.
Beautiful. All right, now let's see if you can create one. Pretty sure you can.
Let's see if we can create one. Okay, so again, being the new guy, let's do create scenario here. On my other screen, I'm going to pull up information. Okay. All right. All right, let's see. So there's the one I've already created. Create a new scenario. Okay, title for the scenario, let's see what we got here. This is going to be a narcotic overdose, so let's call it, have a name, let me look it up real quick. All right, I'll tell you what, let's do this, I got it. All right, we'll do AMI, and we'll call it the Widowmaker. Okay, so let's do a picture. So, I don't know, let's just do, sure, let's do this Magicast one, just as an example. So I just upload a picture. Could name it, you know, the title of the picture, give a caption, give a description, but let's just move on.
All right.
Okay, scenario background. I'm going to add my background information. Already got it copied to my clipboard. So you arrive, this patient with all the stuff going on, blah, 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 blah. All right. So instead of, because this is a lot of patient information, stuff that we would use, I think I'm going to cut that back out, and then I'll say you are dispatched to a local ER for a patient with an acute myocardial infarction. So, you know, my thoughts here is, you know, you want you're gonna want to put all the information right here. So try to push away from that idea and just put what you want. This is just kind of like, what does the dispatch information give you? This is probably best when we're talking about medical responses. This is like the little bit of information that they give you, and you're starting to think, okay, what could this be? You're building your differential. So, you know, we could put a little bit more here, but this is fine for right now. if you wanted to put in here for a picture, like maybe a landing zone of a tiny little hospital, that gets you ingrained a little bit more into the scenario where you're thinking, okay, well, what's our obstructions? And you can start building in that kind of thing. If there's a video, if you have a video of any movie clip that you take that maybe like just 5 or 10 seconds out and that really shows somebody going into chest pain or having a heart attack or something, it'd be great, because now it gives them a little bit more of the, not just visual from text, but visual from seeing that motion picture of it, and just builds a better idea in your head of what's going on. So put the description there.
Yeah,
Some other information.
let me add to that, because I think this video will probably be used for not just first responders, but also maybe volleyball or soccer or whatever it is. So video is a great tool. You might take or even fire, whatever it is, but you might take a scenario up to a point and stop it and edit that, clip that video right there. And the whole video might take you all the way through that scenario, but you can stop it and start your scenario at that point. So the more creative you are with your video and your editing and all that, I think the stuff that we'll see will probably be pretty amazing over time. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No, great. I appreciate it. I'll try to stick to a little bit less of specifics, but I will on occasion mention, for the medical folks, just obviously that's how mine works.
Be specific.
But the great thing is, I mean, it's so dynamic in that it doesn't matter what circle you're in, medical, sports, Christian, whatever circle, we all sit around and we talk about stuff that we've seen. We all sit around and we talk about, oh my gosh, did you see this patient? Or, hey, did you see what this guy did when, he was 1v1 with the goalie? Or, can you believe that person acted that way to their elder? Or anything that you want that we talk about. We do this all the time. Why don't we just do this more structured?
That's it.
So let's go ahead and submit this one for the background. So I just put a tiny bit in, and I clip the part of the heart attack that I want to add in the actual scenario. This is like the real meat and potatoes of, this is what Matt calls a trigger, and different vernaculars for it. I usually think of it as a decision point, or a point where you're given information, you should be going toward knee-jerk reaction. Oh, I see this, so we need to be thinking down this particular path. So here, like for instance, all the medical people, when we see ST elevation, probably a lot of people have heard of ST elevation, MI. This is just a heart attack. This is on a printout of your heart rhythm that tells us exactly with these numbers right here and letters exactly where the heart attack is. So then we can kind of think of different ways on how to treat it. So a lot of information here is pivotal. So we've kept that in there. I get to put a category, so I'm going to put EMS unless I see something better. Well, here we go. I can do EMS, helicopter, medical. Let's do that. Probably at some point we could probably add more. Time limit, 15 minutes. I like that. Main picture is there, and then again more links, more pictures, more additions, documents, and links there. Perfect. So we'll submit that, and then the next thing I have on here is an update. So my update is just it's just the next step. It's the next evolution. So here we have a heart attack. Here's all the stuff going on, and so the update. Well, first, you know what? Here again, and again, I'm new, and this prompted me very quickly that we have the background. Just a quick little get your mind ready. The scenarios, the meat and potatoes, what you're going to use to make decisions for the questions. All right. So let me add a question. So question 1 is going to be, what are your so just quickly, you can see that I'm a horrible speller, so it lets me know. We just spot correct it real quick. So what are your ABC management priorities here at this time? So what I'm really asking the medical folks is, tell me how you're going to break down their airway, their breathing, and their circulation, and make sure that that is maintained and supported. So I mean, quickly when they read this this information, they should be driven to make those changes and start thinking that way. So again, we could add videos, links, documents, a lot of cool stuff there. If there was a 12 lead, if I wanted to add a 12 lead, which I don't have ready, but I could easily, and the 12 lead is just that heart rhythm printout. I could attach it to this portion of the scenario. So there we go. We have our again, the scenario, background, the actual meat and potatoes, the scenario itself, my first question, and so then let's say that this was just the first stuff based off of this scenario information. Well, let's say we want to add in a change, an update to the patient situation. Well, then we can go right here and we'll put in what I had earlier. Okay, so now again, it tells you if you've misspelled anything. So we have a whole bunch of information here. So then after that update, I can say, what do we need to do now? Here's the updated information. What do we need to do now? Again, if we wanted to provide a new heart rhythm strip, we could, another video, any of this stuff, we could just add into it. So it's very robust. There's all types of information. One argument people will have for this type of activity is, well, reading is just like a tabletop. You really can't get immersed. Well, here you're allowed to get immersed. You can get immersed with everything with the exception of touch. You have sight, sound. You can get, I guess you probably shouldn't be licking your laptop either, but like you get the sight, you get the sound, you can get close to being immersed in that situation, and that's the great thing. So let's go ahead and launch this. And I have others, but we'll keep it just these two questions. And what this does is the Widowmaker, this is a heart attack. This is the situation that we have at the beginning. What are you going to do here? Here's the update. What are you going to do now? And then the lessons learned, I could come in and add in my rationale, which is quite substantial, but
But that's good. We want substantial.
Right. You want people to have a good breakdown of things. If you fail to really explain things, then what are we really doing here? So this is the part where you really need to make sure you get in there, make sure things are spelled correctly and that kind of thing, and otherwise, because you want to minimize people's frustration, because no matter what we do, there are going to be people who are frustrated at this, that, the other thing. So try to minimize that. Have a good, great explanation of what the lessons learned are, and minimize as much grammar and spelling as you can. But in the end, this is all about learning. So so I'm going to separate this into two parts just so people understand. So I have part one, which is that first portion, and then this second part is for that update.
All right, so let me ask you a question. Go ahead. You have some video tutorials, right, with some of your classes. So for example, to me, this would be a great scenario backed up by a video tutorial right there, linking out to a video. And I know it's a deeper scenario, but that's part of the purpose. I think, experts like yourself who do this for a living and teach people, that's going to be a key advantage for you moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. That's what makes this thing so exciting, is that, I have a book coming out, 500-page book. It's a textbook for preparing for the FPC, CFRN, CCPC, all the different alphabet soups in the critical care world, whether you're a paramedic or a nurse or a PA or a nurse prac or, anything that engages in emergency medicine. This book is just a resource, a study guide for that. And the thing that I'm really excited about is that you'll be looking up at maybe a difficult topic like preparing a patient, putting them on the mechanical ventilator. And then in the book, there will be a QR icon that you'll be able to snap a picture of, and it goes right to the scenario that gives you a little bit better depth of what's going on by seeing a full scenario and practicing it right there. And so, man, if you are a coach, or if you're a pastor, or if you're if you're a fire chief and you teach classes, especially if you make a livelihood out of it, making it to where people have another resource to go to. They have a textbook, or they have a class, or they have a whatever, then you can say, hey, go to this stuff right here, here's this link, or follow this QR code link, or whatever, and bam, it takes you to a fully immersed scenario where you get to practice that stuff. And
Yeah.
man, I can't tell you how much that is. You could study, you could get with experts, read books, watch video for a year on how to throw a curveball. But guess what? If you don't walk out to that mound and start tossing balls toward that plate,
Yeah.
you're never going to be able to throw a curveball. You have to practice it. That's what this gives you. It's fantastic.
Well, and the key thing too is going to bring experts together to share their, information to create better expertise. So that's good. So all right, so we're done there. So you ready to submit?
Yes, sir.
Let's see what we got here. All right, so it's
Okay.
going to come back. Yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
Lessons learned. Submit to. We're going to send it to the knucklehead. I mean, Matt. And submit scenario for publishing. And then I guess I should give this back over to you.
Yeah, give it back over to me.
Change presenter, knucklehead. Yes, sir. I'm sure.
That's
Unfortunately.
it. Okay, and let me come back up here. Here's my screen, dashboard. All right, scenarios, review scenarios. Oh, look at that, the Widowmaker.
Boom.
I need to do a pretty in-depth review on this.
No, probably not. It's pretty solid.
And then I'll approve it and publish it. So there it is. It's out there. All right, so that's just an example, though. And real quickly, let me touch on this. And we won't have it today, but this is going to be a future class once we get a little bit more data in some of these scenarios that are done. But if I want to come in and assign a scenario, if I'm a group leader, so you have to be a group leader to assign scenarios. So if you have a group and you want to assign scenarios, you can come in and then I can send it out to whoever I want to. So these are the groups that I'm a group leader, and these are the people that are members of that group. So over time. So that'll go. View all answers. I talked about this a little bit before, but this is where the shared learning piece really comes in. So as people go in and they start answering these, you're going to be able to get into a shared learning environment. And I'll show you some examples real quick of that. So if I go into the completed scenarios, and let's say I go into this one here about bird versus bird, same concept, and this is a communication specialist. Now I can go in and I can see what other people put as their answers. Not only can I see what other people put as their answers, but now I'm going to be able to rate those answers. And when I rate those answers, now we have an internal rating system inside of the application. So you're going to be able to go in and look at scenarios, look at answers, and see what other people put. And then you're going to be able to learn from those answers. Well, obviously, you're going to probably look at the higher rated answers, but that's not necessarily all you can do. You're going to be able to look at the most recent. You're going to be so there's so many different options that are built in that you'll see in here as our update, which will happen tomorrow. View lessons learned. This is, for example, this is not the best lesson learned in the world here, but for example, the one Charlie just did would be a bigger lesson learned. So the last piece of this, which is to me is really, really important, is you'll be able to go to scenario discussion board. So each scenario as it's created has a discussion board. So if I go into the scenario lesson learned for this one, the author or the publisher will be able to start this scenario and what lesson did you learn. And so now as you get done with that scenario that Charlie just wrote, now it becomes a shared learning discussion board. And so now we can continue to expand on that knowledge and really get into the debate of what our answers are and what might be the best answer. So I think that'll take people's training to the next level. Now, there's one thing that you may have noticed. Up to that point, it's all anonymous. So, and that's a key element in this, is that people sometimes don't want to answer right off the bat. But if we can make this an anonymous process, people will be more likely and apt to answer. And so that's what we want you to do, is be open and honest in your answer so we get into that shared learning environment. What do you think, Charlie?
Man, you know what? You nailed it with you start asking people, I mean, why hasn't some of this caught on before? And too often, you have three or four people, or no, more than that. You have like if you have 1,000 followers in like one of the bigger forums, I mean, you have like a handful that are, have hundred, thousands of posts, and too often they could be critical. And
Yeah.
that's just not what we're trying to do here. And what you've done is remove that element of, you can't you don't get bonus points for the number of posts you do because that's not the point. The point is getting in and benefiting from the teaching element, right? So we all can learn no matter who we are. So and that's one reason why some of those higher producers in those forums are as versed as they are because they're constantly looking at stuff and critiquing and saying, well, I think maybe this would be better. Sometimes just people aren't as couth as they should be, but nonetheless they're doing it. They're getting in there and doing the teaching elements, but it pushes some other folks away. So if we remove that and all you're really doing is you're going in first, you're looking at the stuff, it's all blinded, and it just takes that away. And so hopefully we need to build a culture of, let's not worry. You don't have to worry about people seeing what you say. Just get in there and answer and see what we can do. When I sent my textbook off to 40 different reviewers, peer reviewers, to make sure that it was worth the crap, you have to be able to accept constructive criticism. And so when they send this stuff back to me, some of it's congratulatory or positive. But other stuff is, hey, what are you thinking here? Because I think we need to do this. Bam.
Yeah.
Now you're defending, or changing your thought process to accommodate a better line of thinking. But what you're doing is you're learning. That is active learning when you're actually trying to prove or defend a situation or a position. You do that, and that's a whole nother level of learning. That's not just reading. Reading is one of those things that, if you too often when I was teaching, if I hear, well, I failed this exam, well, what'd you do? Well, I read this chapter over and over and over. Reading isn't it. It's like the curveball. You have to practice it. This is a way to practice, but practice protected,
Well,
where
it
you're
is.
not going to be.
It is, and it's a way. What we've tried to create here is a way to be part of an active learning process and a shared learning process. Again, I can be the expert and have 1,000 followers, like I said, but who's to say that my way is the only way and the right way? So now, if we're in an active learning process, even though I might be the expert that wrote that answer, or might be an expert, I'm still going to learn from others, and what others bring to the table. Now we're learning from a bigger pool of people, and it's all about creating a culture. When I was a V-22 Osprey pilot, we really tried to change the safety culture of the Marine Corps and of the V-22 Osprey by allowing people to speak and talk and not have that fear that somebody was going to come down on them just because they had an extremely good learning point that people could learn from. So we built that culture. It changed, and I think that it's a change in environment in the Marine Corps that we went through, and hopefully we can take that same mentality and put it out through first responders and no matter what community that you're a part of. That's my goal.
That's outstanding.
Okay, well, listen, as always, we appreciate you being a part of this webinar. Hope you enjoyed it. And then also, we're going to post this on Convene Communities. And so once you're inside of the communities, go to the Start Here button and then become a part of the learning process. So watch this. Make sure that once you watch this, please, 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 everybody has a story. Everybody has lessons learned and experiences. So please share your experiences through writing some scenarios. If you have questions, you can always contact me. You can contact Charlie. We're here to help. That's why we're community leaders. And, we're here to grow something positive. So thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you have other questions, please let us know. Have a good day. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.